Hey guys, Micah from BlackbearCustomkydex. I have a really sweet sheath to show you today. So this thing is an absolute beast, and it marks a lot of kind of new developments that I've made for the Kydex world, and I think marks a couple firsts for me as a sheath builder. I would say that this is by far the most complicated and intricate sheath system I've put together so far. So if you guys have been watching my stuff and following me, you know that that is probably saying something, because I've put together a lot of really lofty ones lately with just a lot of different components on them, a lot of attachments, and just a lot of things going on. So this one I think takes the cake by a very wide margin, and I'm about to show you why. So let's check out what we have here. So these are all this stuff is going to Dwayne out in Illinois. He's from Texas, but he's living in Illinois, and he asked me to put together a few different projects for him. There's actually four, I guess, technically four separate projects, and I decided to parse this one out into its own video and show it to you guys, because there's just a lot to it, and it'll take me probably, it's going to be about a 15-minute video, I would think. And just based on how unique and how versatile and how cool this thing is, I wanted to just give it its own spot in the limelight here. So, all right, what we have is a three knife system. You can see there are three knives, 1, 2, 3, and they are the Tops MSK mini Scandi knife. Awesome little knife here. Of course, the legendary Tops B.O.B, Brothers of Bushcraft. This thing is an absolute beast of a bushcraft knife. Really great, and kind of that sweet spot size too, where it's probably the biggest I would go for an EDC, but it does just about everything you need a knife to in that kind of survival knife situation. So, and it's nice and sturdy, thick spine, so you can do a lot of things like batoning with this, and yeah, it's just a really great knife. And then of course we have the BK-9, which is a legend in its own right as well. So this one you can see has some traction coating on it and custom handle scales from the Knife Connection, which are really sweet. I love the Knife Connection's handle scales. I still have the factory scales on all my my BK series. So in any event, Dwayne had originally we had originally talked about this system, and you know, I'd said we had organized me to expedite his order, because he's going to be leaving town on a trip and wants to bring his Kydex with him. So I said that I would start the project using my knives, because I own all three of these knives as well. So I did that, and you know, I knew that I was going to have to make some adjustments for the handle of the BK-9, but that's not too big a deal. They're similar enough in size that they still work. You just have to make some fine-tuning adjustments to get it perfect. However, what I didn't realize is that I actually own the MSK 2.5, and he just owns the MSK, the regular one, I guess. I had no idea that there was actually a difference. You can see that they are of identical side profile. However, when you look at the spine and the handles, mine is almost twice as wide. So I had molded the sheath, I had it all set up and ready to go, and then I took his knives out of the box when they came, and when I put that in the sheath I had made for his MSK, it just fell right back out. So I did adjust it. It is good to go, and all this stuff is on here really nice and secure. So as for attachments, he asked if I could put on, we've got an Exotac fire rod here, which is a really great ferro rod. For those of you who haven't familiarized yourself with Exotac, I highly recommend you check them out. They make some of the best fire starting gear on the market. So the idea with the fire rod is that you have a cap that unscrews, and you've got a little tinder compartment there. You can maybe stuff some cotton balls in there or something like that, fat wood splinters, whatever you like. And then you have a ferro rod that also unscrews. So once you've used up your ferro rod, you can order just a replacement rod, and you know that it'll fit onto this nice well-designed handle. It's got some texturing on it, so this thing works very, very well. Highly recommend Exotac gear to you guys. Alright, so got the Exotac fire rod. We also have a ceramic rod, and I don't actually know the brand name. I buy these on eBay and put them on a lot of sheets. It's just a 4.5 by 1/4 inch, 4.5 inch by 1/4 inch ceramic rod. It doesn't have a drill hole, so I do this little handle a la CP Kydex. The first person I ever saw doing this style handle to create, you know, essentially to create a little grip to hold on to, but more importantly to create a hole that you can loop your shot cord onto so that you get good retention of your rod on your sheath, especially with ferro rods, because you make them smaller as you use them, so you're going to need to have some kind of outside force acting on it to keep it retained in its holder. So that's what this shot cord does here. And Jeremiah from Country Prepper was the first guy I saw doing that when I first started checking out Kydex videos and all that good stuff. So thank you for that awesome idea, Jeremiah. Alright, so that guy goes on there. And the Phoenix UC35 flashlight is also on here. It's a really nice flashlight. It's pretty easy to get off of the sheath, but there is enough retention on that holder that you're going to need to brace the sheath with one hand and pull the light off with the other. However, you may not need to pull the light off at all to use it. So what I try to do anytime I set up a sheath that's, you know, baldric style, which means carrying on a sling, I try to set the flashlight up so that it faces forward, and hopefully you have access to the buttons on it. So in this case we've got one button here up near the lens housing, and you also have the tail cap, and you can access both of those without ever taking your light out of the sheath. That means you have a pretty generous full range of motion that you can use your flashlight in, and, you know, potentially never need to take it out of the sheath. I think that's a really nice feature to have, and kind of just expands on the utilitarian function of having a flashlight mounted to a sheath. On the back side of the sheath, we have, of course, our leather dangler. And this, if you guys haven't already checked out, one of my Kydex inventions is the breakaway dangler. So this is the adapter for the breakaway dangler, and essentially it functions like a seat belt. So the idea is you could be carrying this on your hip, and obviously the loop is going to be around your belt, but when you don't want to carry it on your belt anymore, if you want to transition to baldric, or if you want to just downgrade your sheath and put it down so you can take a load off, all you have to do is just pop it off of there. There is a significant amount of pressure holding this guy on there. This is a very heavy sheath, so I wanted to make sure that the adapter was strong enough to last while you're out in the field doing some hard work. So you are going to have to brace and get ready to pop that sucker free, because it'll probably hold easily over 100 pounds of force. Getting it back in, same sort of concept. It's just like a seat belt, only quite a bit more difficult to click in because of that retention that I was just talking about to compensate for the weight of the sheath. So I would just kind of brace it and just crank it back in there. But it should go nice and easy, and like I said, it will support the weight of the sheath pretty comfortably. We also have, of course, get this off my head, we also have the attach points for the sling. This one was very easy to do. This one I had to get creative. So what you don't see on this is behind this dangler adapter and sort of overlapping on the back side of the holder for your flashlight, there's another plate that I created that kind of extends upward and over, and it's made of a very thick piece of Kydex, and that is actually what I've mounted this attach point to. So it was really difficult to find a free space to do that. And this is a particularly awkward design with just a lot of different things mounted to it. So I had to kind of adapt and overcome and find a solution to that. But I think this works out pretty good. It's on there nice and solid. I don't think you'll have any issues with it. And then, of course, the last thing we have on here is the Os 8 claw. And another item I think probably Chinese made. I don't actually know the brand name for these things. I just ordered a box of like 100 of them or something. So I do have these guys, and they're, you know, they're a fun little knife to open packages or something with. I wouldn't consider this to be highly utilitarian, or certainly not an effective self-defense tool or anything like that, but it's a nice little blade to just have for fun stuff like that. But low quality steel, yeah, so just be careful with that. It does come with some crappy paracord on it, so I cut that off and tied some real 550 and a snake knot on it, so you do have a little bit more to grab onto. And yeah, looks pretty cool on the back of the sheath there. He also asked if I could attach a Hudson Bay tobacco tin and a Suntoe A30 compass. So looking at this, obviously we have a little bit of real estate left. That's the only spot that's free on the entire sheath, but putting anything bulky on it would obviously make the profile of this even wider, and that becomes more problematic because the length of the Chicago screws that are available are just not sufficient to actually mount the thickness that would be required to add another attachment on the back. The other thing is, you know, yes, I could have staggered the drill holes so that the Chicago screw doesn't have to go through as many layers, and that's kind of what I've done for the breakaways, and I'll explain the piggybacks rather. I'll explain these soon. But the other problem here was just the fact that I wasn't going to be able to fit everything on there, and I was going to have to create a separate rig, which is what this is here. So I wanted to make sure at least a couple things went in it, because if you're going to have a separate thing anyway, you might as well free up a little space, keep the back of this flat so it's comfortable against your body, and just makes more sense to me. So inside this is a Condor pouch. I'm giving him the pouch, which is a nice even trade-off, because then I don't have to actually build the holders for those things. So in the pouch we have a Suntoe A30, really great compass. This is my favorite compass. And we got that Hudson Bay tobacco tin, and he chose the copper color on this. This thing's pretty cool. It's a little bit bigger than an Essie tin, obviously a very different shape. But one of the coolest features on this that I don't think I've ever seen on another tin is that you can take that cap off and you've got a magnifying glass to look in on the contents there. So, you know, maybe you just need to see how much tinder you have left in there, or I don't know, maybe you're hiding some wildlife. You got some insects in there you want to look at, but it's a really cool little feature, so definitely worth checking out. They are pricey though, I'll tell you up front. I think the copper one's like 55 bucks, I want to say. 45, 55 bucks. All right, so now you've seen all the components of the sheath itself. I want to get into what the other functions are. So we have obviously the breakaway dangler, which is a really cool concept. So if you were, you know, tired of having it on your shoulders, or maybe it's not comfortable with your pack or something, you can unclip your baldric sheath. You've got these nice HK style clips, so you can just unclip those from the attach points and immediately transition to wearing it on your belt. I would just leave this on your belt at all times, because it's not going to take up much space. It's certainly not going to bog you down with any unnecessary weight on your hip, and then you can plug your sheath into that whenever you want to. The other reason to leave it on your hip is because, I'm going to take this off. We're going to pretend it's on my belt. But the other reason, actually, you know what? Excuse me while I undo my belt for a second. I'm going to put it on it. Gotta love the Cobra buckle, guys. These things are awesome. Alright, so you're going to leave this on your belt. And the other reason is because both of these piggyback knives are breakaways themselves. So that is a really unique feature. I've done quite a few breakaway piggybacks now, but I've never done a double breakaway piggyback on a 3-knife system. So this is the first 3-knife system I've done, and obviously the first time I've done a double breakaway system. and it has the breakaway dangler. So if you want to break your bob away, one thing you got to do real quick, I'll have to check it out. The ferro rod, this Exotac fire rod, has shot cord attached to it, and the rod is actually attached to the bob sheath. So one thing you're going to need to do is just detach that cord first, and then you pull your bob sheath off and reattach that cord. The reason I'm doing it like that, you can leave the ferro rod, or the shot cord around the ferro rod and have it attached, have it sheathed here. However, that cord actually adds to the width here, and I didn't want to leave it on there when I molded the adapter for the breakaway, because the chances of your shot cord lying in the exact same position every time you resheath it into the piggyback adapter, or the breakaway adapter rather, is very small. So without having to worry about that, I thought it just made more sense to have an external attach point somewhere on the overall sheath system. So you have that there. So anyway, you're going to break that away, and the carry function that's set up for this is a breakaway adapter. So breakaway dangler adapter. So all you're going to do is go over here. Whoops. No, I totally put this, that was stupid. I put the dangler on backward. Alright. So what you're going to do is you're going to get this off of your main sheath. Just reach it around here and bam, plug it in, and all of a sudden you have your bob as a dangler here. That's a pretty cool, quick change, and just to give you an idea of how fast it actually would be when you want to switch back, just as simple as breaking it away, plugging it back in. So just making sure I've got it. There we go. All the way plugged in. So that's really fast. That's a really cool way to be able to carry in multiple positions, and just obviously some versatility if you want to downgrade your big system and just go ranging with your smaller knife. So I really like this, and very happy that he requested something like that. However, there is one downside to it. Obviously, this being as wide as it is, I mean, it's as wide as the whole sheath itself. Going back onto this system, you can see this is relatively low profile, but when you add this in there, obviously it's going to expand it out a little bit. That's still not that bad, but obviously it's that stands off quite a bit. So some people are going to object to that, and I will remind you once more, this is not meant to be a lightweight tactical system. This is a survival system with all of your tools on it, so, or at least a lot of your tools on it. Alright, so that's the breakaway for the bob. And, sorry, let me fix that ferro rod. Practice what I preach here. Alright, so that's that. Now we have the MSK as well, set up as a breakaway. Same function, you just pull it out of its adapter there, and it's set up with an Ulti-Clip Slim 2.2. Ulti-Clips are really great for IWB and for pocket setups. You've probably all seen Chris Tanner rocking his C2G Fab and Yellowhawk Custom Outdoors pocket sheaths that are set up very similar to this. So that Ulti-Clip just clips onto your pocket, and all of a sudden your knife is nice and secure there. One thing I'll just say, I'm going to start reminding everybody anytime I show Ulti-Clips, is that they are not good for OWB. And the reason is because they create a very strong attach point, a very strong anchor point, enough that you could just draw your knife out and your sheath will stay put. However, they don't do anything to stabilize the sheath. So what I mean by stabilize, I'm going to put this outside the pocket real quick so you can see. You can see how loose that is. It just bounces all around. So it'll stay in the same spot, but it can very easily get twisted and turn and flop around. It's just not very comfortable for me anyway. So in case you guys are thinking about going with Ulti-clips, which are very, very cool, but maybe not the most practical if you want to do outside the waistband anything. Side note, when you clip that hook tee inside your pocket, it's really hard to get off. Alright, so there we go. So that is carry method 1 for the MSK. He also asked if I could set the MSK up as a necker. And one option that I almost went with was setting it up to have a paracord necklace with its own breakaway adapter, something like this, so that you'd literally just pull it off and then plug it into the paracord necklace. But then I got thinking that's actually just another sheath that you're always going to have on your neck, and it's nice to have, you know, something a little slimmer there. It would widen up the profile significantly, you can see. So it made more sense to come up with a different solution to be able to transition immediately to a necker. So what we have here is just a very simple loop. You can see I've knotted the ends, and I've got this little slip pull adjuster. I have no idea what these things are actually called. So you can adjust the length. You probably are actually going to want to tie it off or cut it or whatever. Cut it and make sure you tie these little balls so that they don't come slipping back through and lose your necklace. But I left some extra cord on there because I don't know how big a guy he is, so he's probably going to want a little adjustability. So anyway, the idea is that this would probably stay on your neck. You're probably going to just be wearing this already, maybe tucked in your shirt. And when you want to transition to a necker, you pull your MSK off of your main sheath. All you have to do is kind of pinch the ends of this paracord in, push it through the eyelet at the tip of your sheath. And what I would do, fastest way, and I think probably the most secure way, create a big loop and just put the whole sheath through the loop. So you just create that little pull through. I'm not actually sure what kind of knot that would be. Just a little pull through. But very simple. Works great. And there you go. I know anytime I do anything with neckers, paracord, a lot of guys ask about breakaway clasps. I do offer breakaway clasps. However, my objection to them is that they typically are extremely weak. And I know the point of them is to be weak enough that if you snag your paracord on something, you won't get strangled by it. Obviously, that's why they exist. It's a safety function. However, I think there's a really... I think there's better middle ground to what could be done. And for my case, they're just too weak. I've worn them before and just had them come off accidentally all the time. It's just annoying to me. And for the simple fact that I always have multiple knives on me, if I ever do get snagged up on something, I can grab a knife somewhere on my person and cut myself free. So that's my own personal feeling and objection to it. In this case, we don't have a breakaway clasp on it. We don't have that safety mechanism, but I think he'll probably be okay since he's got every knife in the world on this one system. Alright, so anyway, that's what we got for the necker. And I would definitely say you have to take the paracord back off of it before you transition it back to the main sheath. But it's very easy and quick to do that. There we go, back onto the main sheath. Just to give you guys a real quick look at this, what I've done, because of how thick it is, and like I was talking about with the attachments and the lengths of Chicago screws, it would not be possible to actually get a single Chicago screw through the ends of these. So what I've had to do is stagger. You can see the top's B.O.B adapter, breakaway adapter, is attached through these 2 points to the BK-9. And then the MSK breakaway adapter is attached through these 2 points to the top's B.O.B breakaway adapter. So the MSK is actually not attached to the BK-9, but as you've seen, you can still remove the B.O.B and have the MSK attached to your overall sheath system. So it's fully modular. Everything can be removed without affecting another thing. So we got that. Let's see, what did I miss here? Oh, I did create this little slip, I don't even know what to call it. It's just an adjustment thing. So it's just a piece of Kydex folded over. It pinches the nylon strap here, your sling, so that the pouch doesn't just fall and slip and slide around. Wherever you slide it to is where it's going to stay put. So you do have a lot of options and versatility with that. It can go anywhere on your sling. And then the last thing, I guess, to check out is just the draw of the knives themselves. So we've seen the MSK. It's got a nice smooth draw to it. Well, actually, I wouldn't call it smooth. It's a little bit, got a crisp, clean break to it. It's not quite what I would call an ideal feeling draw, but it definitely works. It's not difficult to do, and you know when it's in there nice and secure. It's got a good click. B.O.B, this thing has what I would call absolutely perfect retention. It's got a perfect feeling draw to it. It's a little bit springy and smooth. That's just how I like my draws on there. This would absolutely be a ballistic draw if it weren't attached. You know what, maybe I can even there you go. Ballistic one-handed draw with a 10-pound sheath system. It's pretty cool. Alright, and then of course the BK-9. This guy's got a great draw, very smooth, very similar to that B.O.B. And a nice click going back in. As for the colors, he asked for OD Green, obviously, and Cryptek Highlander, and both of these are fabric-covered Kydexes. So, a lot of you guys that have ordered from me before, you know that I've said I charge the same price for all colors and patterns and all that. I don't charge differently. I don't charge for premium Kydex or plain or whatever. However, the fabric Kydex, well, I'm not going to call it like more premium or anything. It's just an aesthetic effect. I do charge more for the fabric because it takes about 3 times as long to do all of the finish work that I have to do to it. It's really tough to work with. And one thing I'll tell you right up front, you can kind of see it here. It looks like it gets a little dirty around the edges, and the reason is because there's adhesive that holds the fabric onto the Kydex, and when you heat the Kydex, which obviously you have to do all the time to be able to work with it, every time you heat it, that adhesive becomes slightly liquid, so you start winding up with the fabric sliding a little bit, and when it exposes some of that adhesive on the surface of the Kydex, it's going to collect dust and gunk, and it's not too hard to clean off. You can actually just kind of like put a little pressure on your finger and scrape it off. It'll come off in like little gobs and whatnot, look like little boogers, but you can do that. It's not too big a deal. It's just kind of constant upkeep, and particularly when you're, working on building the sheath, you have to do that constantly because you're always reheating it, and so trying to make adjustments, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast. So I do charge more for the fabric, so if you guys are thinking of that, it's going to be on a case-by-case basis what the extra charge is, just based on obviously how much work I'm going to have to do to your sheath. So alright, that's out of the way. I think that's all I got for you guys. Like I said, I'm going to be showing another video with the other items that he ordered from me, and this guy will make a very quick cameo in that one, and I'll give you a quick rundown on all the stuff for it. But I wanted to make sure that it had its own video because, like I said, it is super complicated, and geez, I said it was going to be about a 15-minute video. We're at 29 minutes now, so I apologize, guys. I hope you weren't hope you weren't committed to doing something 15 minutes from the start of the video. But anyway, I appreciate you sticking around for all of my talking, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, enjoyed this sheath. If you did, hit that like button. If you like my channel, I ask you to subscribe to it, and let me know in the comment section what you think of this thing, what you think of the idea of having all these items, having full modularity with 3 knives on it. Obviously 3 very different knives that all serve some pretty awesome, unique purposes, and multiple carry systems, the breakaway Dangler, all this stuff. This is a really cool, intricate, complex system I was really proud of, and I'd love to hear your thoughts below. And definitely share it with all your friends. So, alright guys, thank you once again for all the attention while I am rambling. I know it's a long video, and I appreciate you sticking it out. Alright guys, tune in for the next one, and God bless.